Are you looking for the perfect bracelet for a loved one? Would your man be interested in a personalized keyring from his children? Are you looking for the best priced jewelry, whether it be a necklace, ring, earrings, bangle, or even more? Look no further than Crafted Arts. Crafted Arts is a local business based in Barry within the Vale of Glamorgan, and they have a range of all the perfect items you need. If it's for the perfect gift for an anniversary, or maybe it's for someone's birthday, maybe something for Christmas, or you wanted to give someone that perfect gift that will last a long time, Crafted Arts is the business for you. If you want to know more or see what they have in stock, then you can visit them locally at 29 High Street, Barry, Vale of Glamorgan, CF62 7EB, or you can go onto their website at www.craftedarts.co.uk. You could even email them at info@craftedarts.co.uk, or maybe just give them a call at 07789 94248. Trust me, it's worth it for the perfect gift. The best thing about Creative Space is that we don't just want to encourage people in being creative in TV, film, or even theatre. We also want you to be creative in a variety of other things as well. So do you want to have experience in making jewelry? Do you want to pick up a hobby but do not know what to take or where to start? Then look no further than the Vale Jewelry Workshops. Vale Jewelry Workshops provides the best experience in teaching you how to make the best sterling silver jewelry. They will help you make a range of silverware including rings, bracelets, and many more pieces. You will learn the basic silversmith skills such as soldering, texturing, shaping, and lots more. Not only do the workshops provide the experience for adults, it also provides the best experience and fun for children as well. So if you want to learn on how to make sterling silver jewelry, and if you're very interested, go onto their website at www.valegewelryworkshops.co.uk or get in touch with them via email at info@valegewelryworkshops.co.uk or even phone them at 07789 794248. Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Rhys of Creative Space Podcast, and I am re-uploading the Phil LaMarr podcast episode on YouTube for you guys because you responded well with the clip of him talking about Pulp Fiction, and obviously I've been asking around the community of Creative Space to see if the visual episodes are really useful, are they really engaging more rather than the ones I've been doing and uploading onto YouTube. And so without further ado, it's the same format, it's just a little bit different with obviously Phil LaMarr talking about Pulp Fiction, he's talking about all the voices that he's done, all the things that he's done in his career. And without further ado, let's get on to the re-uploaded version of Phil LaMarr's episode. Enjoy.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I've had a few people call me Rhys and Ryan, and I'm used to it now. I'm used to it. I've had it all my life, but it's all good. But no, it's a big pleasure because a friend of mine, Chris Maxwell, he's a big fan of your work, and especially with Samurai Jack and Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, etc. So he was like, "Oh my God, you haven't Phil LaMarr on the show," and I thought, "Yeah, well." Well, that's what I do. I'm going to try and get quite multiple people on the show. But I just want to say thank you again for taking the time to come and have a chat with me about your career now. Um, the
No,
the
I'm
one thing
happy that those great shows made it across the sea.
I know, yeah, I mean, believe it or not, we've got Samurai Jack. We have one of my favorites of yours was Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends,
Oh,
and
yes.
I loved your character Wilt. And I just loved it. I wanted to know something about Foster's Home. Why was the character Wilt always apologizing all the time? What was the reason behind it?
Well, that was just what Craig and Lauren decided about the character. I think it was to make Wilt a sort of the opposite of, blue.
Oh yeah,
Red was the opposite of blue.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Well, it works perfect, don't it? One of my
well,
one
and
of my all
also
time.
I think they thought, well, if we're gonna make one of these imaginary friends big, we don't want him to be scary.
Mm.
Make him the sweetest, most vulnerable guy. Hey guys, no, that's not okay. Is that okay? You know.
One of my favorites stories. I can't remember the name of the episode, but it was like a scary movie type of one where there was like a ghost in the house or something, and there was a scene where Blue is he's really ill, so he's gone from blue to white, and he's really ill. And there's a bit where Wilt, I can't remember the characters. I just remember Wilt because he was my favorite character. But there was a bit where he's like, "Oh, it's he's not a ghost," and he unveils it, and it's Blue just looking ill, but they think it's a ghost, and it's just the sorry, and it was just Wilt saying sorry so quick because he's so petrified. I just thought that was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was a really funny moment.
Yes, no, no. I mean, all of those episodes were great. I mean, because you've got two incredible creators. I mean,
Mm,
the person who created the Powerpuff Girls
mm,
and the person who created the My Little Pony world, you
mad.
know?
It's absolutely crazy how many. I think that with some creators, some of them just don't get it. I know where credit's due, their names are on the shows, but then if they don't know who the people are, it's a bit like everyone knows who Seth MacFarlane is because he did
Yeah.
Family Guy, which obviously you
Well, because
did.
he's also in the cast.
Yeah, he's also in the cast. He's recognizable. He's a face. Whereas creators like the ones you mentioned for Foster's Home, for the Powerpuff Girls, because they're not quote unquote a face,
Right.
people just don't know them. Would you
Yes,
agree? But
like a lot of people, you know, have had their lives made better by Gendy Tartakovsky's artwork and
mm,
creativity, but they don't know what he looks like.
yeah, that's
Gendy
amazing though.
Tartakovsky, the creator of Samurai Jack,
Mm,
and tons of other great series and
yeah.
movies.
Do you think with when it comes, I just really want to know straight off the bat because doing the research, I've seen that you've done 250 voices, and I'm like, dude. Where do they come from? Where does these voices come from? Is it do they come natural, or do you have to prepare, or what is your secret, Phil?
Well, I mean, voice acting is a more collaborative form of acting than, say, film acting. Film acting is always, this is how I would be if I were this character, this lawyer, this soldier,
Mm,
whatever. But with animation and voice acting, the voice is a third of the character, in addition to the concept and the art. So, really, usually the concept and the vision are formed before we come into audition. So you look at that and you listen to the ideas, the vibe that the creators have, and then you think, this is what I think someone like that would sound like, or something like
mm,
that. It's not always people. And so you worked, and that's when you audition, and your idea of what those things come together and sound like doesn't match what's in the creator's ear,
mm.
you don't get hired. But when you do, they go, oh, yes, that's exactly what I thought it would sound like. Or sometimes they may say, ooh, that's almost there. Wait, Phil, can you give him a little more, strength? And then you make an adjustment, and they like that
Mm.
because, oh, wow, this actor can take direction. We're going to be able to make this good.
Fantastic. And I'm gonna name a few off the bat. Obviously, you got Family Guy, King of the Hill, Hey Arnold, Futurama, which I've had Billy West on the show. Fantastic, fantastic guy. Um, the Proud Family, Foster's Home. I mean, so many people, so many shows even, and you've worked with. Was there ever a time for you, which with any show that you found it very challenging in a sense of, I know you say that with great direction you'll get the gist of the voice, but when it comes to a particular show, a particular character, has there ever been a challenge for you to go, oh, this one's a real challenge for me? Do you see what I'm getting at? If you know, I'm
Well, I mean, not really anything comes to head of like, oh, this was just a challenging job. Maybe because something that is that big a challenge for you
Mm,
is not a job that you get
mm.
hired for.
Love the answer.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, and it's, I don't know if it's because you would come out a little, you know, unstrengthened. Okay, well, maybe he sounds like this. They're not going to hire that.
No.
But trying to think what were challenge. I mean, I I think one of the most challenging voices might have been a character I did for a video game called Metal Gear Solid.
Mm,
I had been in just randomly auditioning for, I think, some uh, general or official or something, and then they said, "Oh, actually, Phil, there's another character that we need a voice for, but we've been having trouble finding, anything that works. You want to give it a try?" And it was this character named Vamp, who was one of the boss's villains, and they described him as, well, he's called Vamp and he kills, but he's not really necessarily a vampire. And they just gave me a lot of what he was not.
mm,
And I was like, wow, that's interesting. You said, okay, we don't want a specific Eastern European accent. It's like, okay, you're telling me all these things you don't want. Well, let me just come up with something. And I thought to myself, apart from what they had said, well, maybe if he was a vampire or thought he was a vampire, well, if you're a vampire, you don't need air. What's a voice that sounds like without breathing? And I started to sound like this with an not specific Eastern European voice. 5 today, or rather 6. And I saw the casting director go,
You got it.
creeped her out. And it was
Uh,
interesting because it was just rolling dice. That was lucky. They didn't
mm,
say, we need the creepiest sounding voice for this, you know, villain that's going to try to kill the player.
mm,
Because then you would have done something like this. But I went a different direction and they liked it.
mm. Especially with, I always find it fascinating when it comes to villains when they speak very quiet, monotone.
Mhm.
Because I think that always represents a very calculative, cunning villain. It's like they don't need to raise their voice to know that I'm a deadly assassin or I'm a deadly person that you do not want to mess with. I just find that so interesting. And it always works well, even though it's a cliche in some aspects, but it works so well. I always think anyway.
Well, it's
Um,
because we have higher quality
mm,
um, storytelling nowadays. In the old days, the good cowboy wore a white hat and the bad cowboy wore a black hat and
mm,
acted bad. So it was always one or the other. But even before those old days, in the old days, in good storytelling, in Shakespeare,
mm,
the bad guys were not a different kind of being than the good. Every character was a person, and that's where we are now.
mm,
People, even though, well, I guess some people relate to the villains in their shows, but we all want the characters to feel embodied, to
mm.
feel real, not just be like in the old cartoon days where, you know, I'm a mouse, I'm a cat, where
Yeah, yeah.
it's just one little element, not really a personality.
Did you which character did you feel that came naturally to you? Because obviously you did so many voices. Which one did you feel that, oh, this has come so natural to me?
Well, I mean, the good thing is with voice acting, it's not method acting. You don't have to embody it, take it with you after you finish your session. I'm gonna go talk like this for the rest of the day. Is that okay, honey? Yeah. But and for me, I've been fortunate enough to work with some great creators and storytellers who tell stories that help you feel connected.
Mm.
I mean, I grew up reading comic books and never felt connected to the superheroes. But then when we were doing Justice League, I did feel connected to John Stewart, Green Lantern of Sector 2814. Because he wasn't just, I am hero. They, said, oh, he's a man who was a U.S. Marine. Then the Green Lantern ring found him, chose him, and now he is using his fighting powers for heroism. And his, background was in Detroit. So that's a full character. And I figure, well, if I had that background and was that large and powerful, I would sound and feel like this.
Mm.
And the series Static Shock, that was definitely one I felt like, okay, well, what did I sound like at 14? And I tried to do my childhood voice for a character for the first time. I wasn't, Hermes on Futurama was like, well, Phil, if you had grown up in Jamaica, what would you sound like? I didn't think that.
What about with Family Guy then? There was of course a lot of people would imitate Peter Griffin, a lot of people would imitate Joe Swanson, a lot of people, but you had forgive me, my brain just had a bit of a
Ollie Williams.
Ollie Williams, the weather guy, and we all remember It's Raining Sideways, and it's just we all love it. But how did you get involved, and what was the did you audition, or did Seth MacFarlane ask you to come on board? Tell us the story.
Well, actually, it's a very odd and, in my 30 plus year career, the only story like this in show business. Um, I had actually worked with Seth before Family Guy. He did a little short for Nickelodeon. And I think Butch Hartman also did one. We just did some little thing with zoo animals or something. I forget the name of it. And it was cute, it was fun, it was nice, whatever. But it wasn't a big show. It was just, yeah, you'll do a little voice, you guys do a little art. Good. All right, great to meet you. But then, a couple of years later, as I was working on a late night sketch show for Fox TV, Mad TV, one of the executives at the network came up to me and said, hey, Phil, would you do me a favor? I've got this young animation guy that I want to bring into the network. Would you come and record a voice for a presentation he's putting together to give them his concept for a new animated show? I was like, sure. And I go in there, oh, Seth, hey, it's good to see you again. And the interesting part about that is also she made the same, ask to Alex Borstein.
Mm.
Because this was the executive on our late night sketch show, and she knew that we did claymation pieces and multiple characters. So he said, hey, guys, come do some voices for this little kid, this little kid. And that's how Alex and I both got connected to Family Guy. Well, she's gone on now for 30 years as his wife.
It's absolutely crazy, absolutely crazy. But did they see it simple for Ollie to be straightforward, angry? This is the weather. Was it pretty straightforward?
Well, actually, in the presentation thing we did, I think I voiced just a judge. in the scene in the first episode where Peter is on trial for, some financial fraud thing. And so I was just doing, various characters throughout the episodes. And then a couple of episodes in, they did a news bit, and Seth had me come in and do the weather guy. And it was one line per episode. So it was the shortest work day. Like, oh, hey, Seth. Hey, Phil. How you doing? Oh, good. It's raining. Okay, one more. Angrier. It's gonna rain. Perfect. Thanks. That was the work day.
That's the best work day ever for many people. The best. Staying on with animation and voice work for a moment. Obviously, we've mentioned Samurai Jack. I grew up watching Samurai Jack, and but do you know what? I look back, and I just think I don't know why, because it's going to be intertwined with Quentin Tarantino with Pulp Fiction in a minute. But because I'm a big Quentin Tarantino fan, but every time I think of Samurai Jack, I think, why does it remind me of a Tarantino-esque animation? Because of the many, I don't know why, it just made me think like that. Maybe because I saw an article where Quentin Tarantino praised Samurai Jack, and I was like, oh, that's the connection.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, actually, Pulp Fiction, well, they do both mess with time,
Mm.
chronologically speaking. But obviously, Pulp Fiction predates Samurai Jack. So I don't think Genndy Tartakovsky was trying to do a animated Pulp Fiction. Although what he was aiming to do was one of the best action stories he'd, done or seen. And to most of us, Pulp Fiction is one of the best action stories we know. So that is perhaps one of the connections, is they are these both noble, heartfelt action stories. Although, I mean, the samurai is probably a little more noble than those.
Yeah. More like comparison for like Kill Bill or something, but maybe part one. But I just absolutely remember some of the episodes were on Cartoon Network at the time, and I just really wanted to know what how did you win the role of Samurai Jack, and also did you ever feel, because some actors they do and sometimes some actors don't, when it comes to feeling or predicting that this show, this TV show, this film, it's gonna be a classic, it's gonna be big or something. Did you ever felt that when you got the part, when you read the scripts and you were doing the voice work?
Well, sometimes you think, but you don't know for sure. Because you know the quality of something, but there in show business is not a direct correlation between quality and success. And also because success is tied into quality, but also business. If you have a fantastic show, but the network executive who brought it in gets fired, then those other network executives may just go, meh, 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 even though it's a great show. It's funny because I remember when I auditioned for Mad TV, I had been doing sketch comedy on stage with the Groundlings Company, and a great comedy troupe in Los Angeles. And I was like, oh, I know how to do this. But I had already done a television show pilot for a police comedy that I thought was really good. It's like, oh, wow, we're going to be the new Barney Miller. When my agent called with the audition, it's like, oh, they want, you want to go audition for this sketch comedy show? It's like, no, I already got my job. This show is going to be amazing. It's going to be the best big thing. Like, actually, Phil, we just heard from the network. You should go ahead and audition for the sketch show. What? And that pilot did not get picked up. So your association with the kindness of the grouping or the quality of your material doesn't necessarily tell you that's going to be a hit. And of course, that sketch comedy show, based on a magazine I've been reading since I was, pre-teenage, went on for 14 years on late night TV.
Mm.
You know?
It's the least you expect it as well. The shows that you just least expect, but you should never rule out. But I think I don't know if you agree, but it's like, you know how in the age of movies now, if one movie does so well, it's spawning more sequels or prequels or spin-offs or TV shows. Do you think, um, in terms of not just in film, but maybe in television as well, because they're expanding a lot of universes, do you think that it should be kept at bay in the sense of calm down? This is just enjoy what's there and not expand on the universe just to, I don't know, make more TV shows based on that show or more money. Do you see what I'm coming at?
Well, actually, I think that the current industry mentality is less of that. I think in the old days, it was rooted in, the old chapter idea, you know, like when Dickens would write something and it did well, they'd write another. The idea was if you gave an audience something they liked, give them something else they liked. Tell them again, add on, do Henry the Fourth too. But nowadays, and I think this is the streamer mentality.
Mm.
These streamers, they'll have a show that was a hit. Everybody on our app loves that show. They cancel it after 12 episodes. But because in their head, no, we'll leave those 12 episodes up. And I think also the business mentality is, well, all those fans have already subscribed to us. We already have their credit card numbers. We don't need to pay these producers any more money. And
No,
because I mean, in the old days of television, when you had more episodes, you could do more commercials and the network would make more money. But nowadays, they feel like we're already making the money. We don't need to pay them for it. So it's not as much letting worlds expand or grow as it used to be.
Mm. Going on to television, I don't know if many, obviously between 1991 and 1994, you did a lot of television episodes, etc. But the one that sticks out in my mind is Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Ah.
Yeah, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And it was just that one scene with you, James Avery, and Will Smith. And says, I've recorded them all for 3 days. And I just wanted to know, from your experience, what was it like being in the presence of a fellow actor like James Avery, who does a lot of voice work himself and everything? Because he must sound like, I'll get on to Will Smith in a minute, but just James Avery, a larger than life character within himself, does a lot of voice work and everything. What was it like to perform with the late great James Avery?
It was incredible. And actually, it's funny because I would run into James at the market every once in a while. But he was so great. And you can tell the level of a fellow actor because we all get to read the scripts. Then you come to set. And then the person next to you makes that script 5 times better than it was in your ear when you read it. That's like taking a master class. How did he do that? I got to learn how to do that.
Mm.
Plus, he was also generously kind and sweet. Sometimes somebody who is that big, in skill and status, isn't as warm and welcoming. but he was. And even though he wasn't the star, the number one star of the show, Will was, you could feel that even Will was looking at James and going, ooh, let me take that in. Because this was, the beginning of Will's acting career. He had just been rapping. But it was interesting to work with him for the first time because I knew he was a baby actor, but he had an incredible level of charisma. It was like, oh, wow, I can feel charisma. I see how they make stars now. Because there are certain people who you can't take your eyes off. So we ain't gonna take the camera off. Make him the lead.
Did you ever ask any advice from James Avery when you've known him before he passed away? Did you ever ask any acting tips or advice, or just not even in acting, just in life in general?
No. I mean, I think especially, when you're working with peers, you don't come at it like, hey, help me. I think if you have a problem with something, they'll offer you advice. But I'm thinking about it in terms of sports. Like, well, do you ask your teammates how do I swing? But no. I mean, we would just talk about, what's going on? How are you doing?
With Will Smith, then, obviously you said there was charisma, and they had, because early days he was just come off of rapping. He's the Fresh Prince. He's got this big TV show, records gone platinum, etc. With you sharing the set at the same time as Will Smith, did you ever feel like that maybe he was already there in a sense that, well, he's cementing himself in television because of the show, etc. But did you ever feel like he's gonna climb that ladder and he's never gonna stop?
No. I mean, like I said, we knew that his acting skills were not, at their height yet. But it was really wonderful because back in those days, people who went from the music industry into the on-camera industry, you could always feel the difference. I mean, we love Whitney Houston, but nobody was ever impressed with the acting when she was cast in a movie. But no, we just like to watch Whitney speak. But watching Will get better and better and better was really impressive. But it was definitely clear he was a performer. You could see why his music blew up, because he made you want to watch him and hear him.
Are you looking for the perfect bracelet for a loved one? Would your man be interested in a personalized keyring from his children? Are you looking for the best priced jewelry, whether it be a necklace, ring, earrings, bangle, or even more? Look no further than Crafted Arts. Crafted Arts is a local business based in Barry within the Vale of Glamorgan, and they have a range of all the perfect items you need. If it's for the perfect gift for an anniversary, or maybe it's for someone's birthday, maybe something for Christmas, or you wanted to give someone that perfect gift that will last a long time, Crafted Arts is the business for you. If you want to know more or see what they have in stock, then you can visit them locally at 29 High Street, Barry, Vale of Glamorgan, CF62 7EB, or you can go onto their website at www.craftedarts.co.uk. You could even email them at info@craftedarts.co.uk, or maybe just give them a call at 07789 942 48. Trust me, it's worth it for the perfect gift. The best thing about Creative Space is that we don't just want to encourage people in being creative in TV, film, or even theatre. We also want you to be creative in a variety of other things as well. So do you want to have experience in making jewelry? Do you want to pick up a hobby but do not know what to take or where to start? Then look no further than the Vale Jewelry Workshops. Vale Jewelry Workshops provides the best experience in teaching you how to make the best sterling silver jewelry. They will help you make a range of silverware including rings, bracelets, and many more pieces. You will learn the basic silversmith skills such as soldering, texturing, shaping, and lots more. Not only do the workshops provide the experience for adults, it also provides the best experience and fun for children as well. So if you want to learn on how to make sterling silver jewelry, and if you're very interested, go onto their website at www.vailjewelryworkshops.co.uk or get in touch with them via email at info@vailjewelryworkshops.co.uk or even phone them at 07789 794248.
Going on to the film that you've been in, the character Marvin, Pulp Fiction. Did you? What was your original audition? I take you auditioned for a part. Was there a part that you went for?
I auditioned for Marvin because prior to that, several months, I believe, I had met Quentin Tarantino at a improv comedy show that we got to perform on stage together. He was friends with Groundling alum Julia Sweeney, who was on Saturday Night Live, and so she invited Quentin to come be our celebrity guest in an improv show one time, and he was very good. I thought he was very good, but apparently he thought I was pretty good because he asked the casting people to bring me in to audition for the part of Marvin, which was great.
What's Quentin Tarantino like as a director? I bet there's a lot of passion and fire just coming out of him, like just coming out everywhere. Because every time I see him talk about film, it's just nonstop energy, 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 and I'm just thinking, man, I just like to pick that man's brain for an hour, just about films. But what was it like to work under him as a director?
Well, actually, on set directing, Quentin is wearing a completely different hat. Like, hanging out with him at a party, we'll talk, run on and on for 45 minutes about, some great blaxploitation movie from the 70s.
Mm.
But on set, he is so much more open and warm and not talking as much. Although he is open to everybody. He treats the production assistant with as much generosity and openness as the camera man, and what that does is it makes that set a kind, open place. Because on some movie sets where the director tries to make himself feel like the top of the pyramid and maybe will yell at somebody else or something, it creates a negative vibe. And anybody else who runs their lighting department says, oh, I can yell at my guy. But when your director is nice to everybody, regardless of their level, it's like, well, the art department guy can't scream at one of his underlings because that underling might have lunch with Quentin. And so he'll talk about, oh, he made me cry. It's like, what? All right, don't. All right, I'll talk to him. And Quentin might come and talk to that guy. I mean, the person in charge sets the tone of the set. That's why the time shooting on Pulp Fiction was one of the greatest on-set experiences, still going, of my career.
Ezekiel 25:17, Samuel L. Jackson, the monologue that is quoted just as much as Shakespeare. And Samuel L. Jackson, I think, is one of the finest, brilliant actors.
Yes.
And even though he's already done films like Menace to Society and oh my God, there's so many films I can't even think of the top of my head. I remember Coming to America and he was only in it for a few seconds.
Yeah, and he was in several Spike Lee movies before Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm like, why do I not know any Spike Lee film? Come on, Rhys. But it was that film that gave him his first ever Oscar nomination, I think, hopefully, or only Oscar nomination. I know he got an honorary Oscar later to come, but it sort of transformed him into a big star, even though he's done many, many films with Spike Lee and a few other directors. But for you to be sat in that corner or stood in that corner, and he's got the gun in his hand and he's giving that monologue to what's the actor's name who sat there? Oh, he's so recognizable. I just can't think of his name.
Sitting in
Oh,
the chair, Frank Whaley.
yeah, yeah.
It's Brett.
Um, yeah, and what was that like? That must have been intimidating because the way he was carrying that, delivering that monologue, not carrying it, delivering that monologue.
Well, it was inspiring. It was actually scaring in one way, just because, I had done rehearsal with Sam, got to have lunch with him, and met this sweet guy who had an award created for him at the Cannes Film Festival, you know. But you're absolutely right. His level of quality was already known, but he was not, like we were talking before about the correlation between quality and success.
Mm,
But this movie is what made his name a brand.
mm,
But everybody knew how great he was. But but Offset, he's just a nice guy, and you'll be sitting talking with him about his daughter or about golf or whatever. Just a sweet person.
mm.
But then on set, wait, the guy I was just talking to is gone. I'm looking into somebody else's eyes now. And it was incredibly inspiring to see a person literally transform themselves effortlessly in front of you. He changed his energy, his vibe, like that. And I was like, oh, I got to learn how to do that. Again, it was like being in your best acting class, but watching your teacher do what he's telling you to do. But this guy didn't tell you to do it, but you're just like, oh, wow. He set the bar for I've got to learn how to do that, to completely embody a character instantly.
Mm.
So that was not intimidating, inspiring. Although if Sam turned and looked at me and was like, I remember asking you a goddamn thing, that would have been fine. But when Jules actually did it, the look of fear you see on Marvin's face in those shots is real fear. Because that was not Sam looking at Phil.
Mm.
That was some other guy looking at me.
Yeah. That was Jules looking at Marvin going,
Right?
who put $1 in you, mate? Sit down. What about John Travolta? Because a lot of people, from what I've seen in interviews and everything, a lot of people mention about Quentin Tarantino and Samuel Jackson obviously because of the way Pulp Fiction went. It just shot off in the stars. It was always in the top 10 greatest movies ever, and rightfully so. I will challenge anyone on that. But I never hear John Travolta because you share not just a car with him. You're sharing the same car with him, and obviously you get head blown off. But to be around John Travolta, because I think at the time, wasn't he it was something to do with his career that he did a few bad movies, and a lot of people thought it was a bad gamble on Quentin Tarantino to put John Travolta in that position. But for you, as maybe as the person and maybe as the actor, what was it like to be around John Travolta as well?
It was, again, inspiring, because here is somebody who I had grown up with their name on a marquee. He was world famous for decades by the time I got to work beside him. And he, again, was not showing off his stature. Not because he had just done 3 talking baby movies, but yes, you're right. At that time, people were thinking, well, he's not acting like the big name movie star that he should be. Like somebody as famous as that name should only be in big type, blockbuster movies.
Mm.
But John was like, no, I'm going to do a movie that's fun. And it was interesting because he had a sense of how his character interacted with the audience. And I'm sure that he chose to do this movie because he read that script and said, this was fantastic. I'm pretty sure that's how Quentin got all of these big name stars into his little second independent, film
Mm.
because it was so great. And I'm sure John was there. It's like this, and it was interesting because there was one thing that John had a vibe about, and he asked Quentin to change something in the script.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
Have
It
you
was
heard me tell that story before?
no, was it something to do with? I think it was John. I read somewhere it was John to not read watched. It was John to. Was it something to do with when he accidentally shoots your character, and
Mhm.
he just said it was supposed to say in the script, "Oh, I shot Marvin," and he went, "No, no, it's got to be not. I'll say the word
Well,
innocent, but
Rhys, what it is originally
mm,
Vincent was supposed to shoot Marvin twice.
really? Oh
Yes,
shit!
he was supposed to turn around and come on, you man, you gotta have an opinion. And then the gun went off accidentally, hit the kid in the throat. And he's back there bleeding, and and the two guys are bantering back and forth. Hey man, what'd you do? It's like, oh no, you hit a bump or something. No, I didn't. Yeah. Well, go ahead and put him out of his misery. We can't take him to a hospital. All right, fine. On the count of three, I'm gonna hit a horn. 1, 2, 3. And then they get covered in blood and brain.
Mm,
Oh crap, we got, and that's how the Harvey Keitel character has to come in and all that,
mm,
which all stays the same. But John thought, no, Quentin, it's funny because I remember when we walked in to rehearsal, he's like, Quentin's, hey guys, this is Phil LaMarr. It's like, yeah. It's like, oh, this is a kid I gotta shoot. The audience is gonna hate me. And he told Quentin, it's like, no, no, if Vincent kills this little nice kid on purpose, they're not going to enjoy. I don't know if he said this, but he thought maybe they wouldn't enjoy his dancing later as
mm,
well. So they changed it to just the one accidental shot.
yeah, that's so interesting. I love just things like that. It's like, really? Oh. When it came to it went to Cannes Film Festival, won the Palme d'Or, nominated for Oscars, winning won for Best Original Screenplay. Even though Pulp Fiction was up against Shawshank Redemption and Forrest Gump, for crying out loud, but I think that must have been one crazy year for film in sense for like Pulp Fiction, but earning over $250 million at the box office on a small scale budget as well at the time. I
Eight
bet
million.
when you yeah, I bet when you look back, because Pulp Fiction is such an iconic film that no even it's like the small parts in films, anyone who had a cameo, anyone who's even Steve Buscemi, people remember Steve Buscemi for playing a waiter as Buddy Holly waiter, but people remember it. I bet when for you that must have been quite an experience that people will come up and go, "Hey, Marvin, how's the face?"
Well, not so much. I mean, just because the character, well, I mean, most people don't recognize, I mean, they recognize Steve Buscemi as Buddy Holly. Oh, there's the guy from Reservoir Dogs. But usually what will happen is I'll have a friend or something, and then we'll meet, hang out, and then they'll go and rewatch Pulp Fiction for the first time since we met and go, oh wait, Phil, I didn't realize that was you, the guy in the back seat of the car. You know, because the character doesn't have any big monologues and wacky
Mm.
bits. It doesn't stand out. Well, it's mostly his blood that stands out.
Now, I did some research and I really wanted to know you've done voice acting, you've done television work, you've done film work, and uh, you have done theater work. Um, you did a few musicals. I just wanted to know, have you ever considered, because obviously you've done so much voice work, but hasn't it been recent or a few years ago that you were thinking maybe I can go back and do, or maybe you wanted to do more theater work? Was that ever a plan for you, or did you ever consider doing more theater work later on in your career?
Well, no, I mean, I began my performing in theater work in high school. So, the theater experience has always been, my primary experience. Um, but that was not a career goal. It was simply an enjoyable hobby. And then after doing theater in college and getting introduced in college also to improvisation, then when I graduated and decided to pursue an acting career in the late 80s, I did not decide to go down a theater route. Although, having graduated from Yale University back east in the United States, many of my, classmates went straight to New York, where the idea of having a theater career was a reality. But in Los Angeles, where I'm from, and where I came home after college, it was not. As a performer, the only way you could pay your rent was to get a TV or film job. So that is what I began to pursue.
Hmm.
Although, ironically, I started doing theater, improvisation classes, but not for show business, not for the industry, not for my career, just because I missed my college improv group. And I was like, no, I want that great sense of yes and community back in my life. So I'll go pay $300 for a class. But then I wound up moving up into the Groundlings company. And that triggered my acting career. It's interesting because like I said, because of the Groundlings, I got my first somebody called the Groundlings and they were looking for actors to do post-production voicing. You know, how they will bring in a group of actors and fill in the extras. They call it loop groups. And somebody called and said, yeah, we want improvisers to do that because they can just look at the footage and make up what these people in the background might be saying. And a person putting together a group for the movie House Party 2, it's like, well, we need, this movie is about, African Americans. We need somebody like who looks like these characters. And so I got hired to do looping on a bunch of, I got into the looping world. In fact, I was in the background looping Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump.
So to this day, every year I still get a $3 paycheck.
Hey,
But
you're
but
doing
the
it
but
for
the
what you
but
love.
the Groundlings got me starting to write sketches,
Mm.
and I met Julia Sweeney. So because of that theater background, I wound up getting my first regular television job and a part in an Oscar-winning movie.
Can't go wrong in that. You cannot go wrong in that. There are two films that you made cameos in, Spider-Man 2 and Step Brothers.
Yes.
And I was like, where was he in Step Brother? And then I had to go back and watch the film. And I went, oh yeah, he sees John C. Reilly crying over Will Ferrell's dead body. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. How did you get the call for that to do that particular scene?
Well, Will Ferrell, that was also from the Groundlings. Will Ferrell and I were in the Groundlings together. Well, actually, I was in the groundlings ahead of him. And I remember watching this great tall young guy come up, and he was so nice. We would go and play, sports in the park together and stuff. So we were friends. And when he was doing Step Brothers, he just gave me that part as a favor.
And what about Spider-Man 2? Because did you ever wasn't Joey Diaz in the film or something like that? Because
Yeah,
was
yeah.
there?
There were a group of us who were in the subway car,
Yeah.
and it was a very interesting thing, Rhys. Well, the reason I was there was I had auditioned for a regular part. There's a scene where there's a guy in an elevator standing next to Peter Parker in his suit, and he goes,
Mm.
"Oh, hey, nice outfit, kid." And Hal Sparks got the part, and I didn't. But then a couple of months later, while they were shooting, they called and said, "Hey, would Phil be interested in doing a scene in the movie?" And they wouldn't say exactly what because they try to keep things very secretive. Well, what do we do? But being an old comic book nerd, I was like, I'll do anything I can to be in a Spider-Man movie, whatever it is. But it was a really unusual concept that I had never heard of before and have never heard of since. Because the director, Sam Raimi, thought that this big action scene where Spider-Man is fighting Doc Ock on this, New York subway train, he wanted this to have more heart in it, not just action. So he said, well, you know what? I want to be able to give the emotion of this scene to show how the people of New York care about Spider-Man. So he hired 8 actors to be put into the group of extras, because there were like 40 people just sitting in the seats in the train. But he wanted like 8 of us there. It's like, I want people that I can cut the camera to get emotional reactions, or we'll just throw in lines. And yeah, I've never heard of anybody trying to bump up a group of extras acting wise before.
That must have been interesting though to do. And well, how did you feel like as a fan then, just to be on the set to do Spider-Man? That must have been such a thrill. Like, yay, here we go.
Yeah, and getting to, chat with Tobey Maguire, who at the time was a star, but I'm
Mm.
also talking to this big name star in the Spider-Man suit. That was like talking to Spider-Man, which
Yeah.
as a comic book nerd, that's even better than cosplaying Spider-Man.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's one of those moments. It's like, oh, what do I have to do just to be in that scene as an extra and everything? It's just absolutely phenomenal. Couple of questions left for you, Phil, and I appreciate the time you found the time to come and speak to me. I really enjoyed this podcast, but I wanted to know what's it like to do the voice of Sherlock Holmes?
Um, it was a joy. Again, it was like sitting next to Spider-Man because I grew up reading all of the Sherlock Holmes books. I have the complete collection. So I knew the character. Although it was interesting in this Audible series, Moriarty, where they were approaching with Moriarty as the protagonist and Holmes as the villain. But they wrote it well. They kept his personality the same. They just changed his backstory. He wasn't really solving these crimes. He was doing it for, a government agency. Oh, I don't want to give up too many spoilers. But, I mean, getting a chance to play, that it felt as iconic as getting to play Hamlet or King Lear.
Mm.
Um, but it was also, I had done a lot more research than I had done about King Lear. I knew the character, and although it was a little, at first I was like, oh, well, as the only non-British person in the cast, is that going to be okay? Because Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan, well, they're doing their own accents. But it was not just about the accent, it was about sounding like the character. And this is a character who is the smartest man in London, is what I think of myself. But I also do cocaine and play violin in the middle of the night. So it wasn't just doing a bland heroic voice or a just non-specific English accent. No, it was embodying Sherlock Holmes, and that was a joy.
Final question for you, Phil LaMarr, and I've always asked my guests this question. How do you look back on your career?
I look back on my career as a path of good luck, because getting to work alongside icons that I grew up with, John Travolta, George Carlin, even Carol Burnett and Adam West, was a wonder. But the biggest plus was how many wonderful creator, writer, producer, directors I have been able to work for and with. I mean, there is no difference career-wise between working for Quentin Tarantino in a live-action movie and Bruce Timm and Dwayne McDuffie in animation. They are all geniuses, and their genius elevates our performance. It's like being able to perform solid gold. It shines. And also to work alongside several other great creators, Dave Filoni in the Star Wars universe, Craig McCracken in Foster's, Matt Groening in Futurama and Disenchantment. These are just wonders. And I believe, anytime anybody comes up to me and says, "Oh, I love your work, I love your work," it's like, me too. I love being able to work with this material. Because the thing is, your skill set does not necessarily determine how good the work you're going to get is. Like John Travolta was in a talking baby movie.